This week on the Fifth Trooper podcast.
In your head, they're a hero.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
And that's how the battle plays out.
Yes.
They survive everything, and everyone else is dead.
That's right, yeah. It's just Return of the Jedi in my head. We're on speeder bikes going through the forest. This is awesome.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper podcast.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper podcast. In this series, we'll be talking about Star Wars Legion. My name is Jay Shalansky, and I'm here with my friend and the only man I know that rolls crits on White Attack Dice, Nick Allen. And we're also here with the man, the myth, the legend, Evan Bulriss.
How's it going?
On today's cast, we're going to be talking to Evan about Nova Open. He took a trip down there. We're going to take a look at the winning lists. We're also going to discuss meta and also terrain. So let's get started. So, Evan, you went down.
Yes.
You took a trip. How was it?
Excellent. If you ever get to experience Nova Open, 10,000% worth your time. It's just a big convention of people who like-minded who just want to play games and drink, and I can get behind both those.
And so now you went down for both Legion and X-Wing.
Went down for Legion, X-Wing, and Conflict 47, and Shadespire.
Okay. So how'd you do? I guess we'll just get X-Wing out of the way real quick since we're talking Legion today, but how'd you do at X-Wing?
Made day 2, top 65. I think I ended up coming in 51st out of that. I lost my first game on day 2, but no, it was a blast, and it's the end of 1.0, so we're good now.
Was there a huge push because of the end of 1.0?
No, actually, less people showed up. It was actually in the worst, I think the worst egregious offender. So I was down there, and we're all talking about how excited we are, good play. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, this Kylo Ren card, because I'm a first order player for the new set when it gets released. Oh, yeah, it's going to be a special Kylo Ren card. It's going to be great. And then the guy's like, well, it's only for 1.0. And I did like a double take. I'm like, it's because most of the cards they give you are flip.
Yeah.
So it's normally Kylo Ren 1.0 on the one side, and you flip it and you get a full art 2.0 card. And at that point, I was just like, I could just drop and go do something else because that's really what I was in this for. And when the guy was handing them out, he was like, he's like, pardon me, excuse me, sir. Super nice guy. He was like, would either of you like a 1.0 Kylo Ren card? And people are like, nah, because you can't use it in 2 weeks. It's like, so I'm like, right. I'm taking it. I'm like, give me this. It's mine now, right? Like, I'll put it in a shadow box or something.
They're just trying to get rid of their surplus.
Dude, it was insane. Like, it was a big slap. It was like, not only do you have to get through 1.0, but here's your prize. Right. You don't get to see it. So, but other than that, it was a blast. Actually, all tournament was good. Got a lot of fun on all of them.
Oh, that's good. So then, okay, let's talk about Legion. You want to go over what you did for your list a little
sure.
bit?
I totally net decked it. Because I don't get to play enough in it to really have my own flavor. So I did Veers with a Steam Leader, 2 full Stormtroopers with Impact and Flame Troopers, 4 Stormtroopers with DLTs and Impacts. 1 had Concussion because I ran out of Impacts, so I just whatever. And then a full ATSD.
Okay, and you said you played what day was it you played?
Saturday, so I think it's day 3.
Day 3. And you went 2-1?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty good.
So did you feel on your loss, were you like wiped out completely, or did you feel like you had a chance?
So at the beginning I thought I did, and then I put he moved Vader up, and my ATSD could see him, like 2 sets of troopers could see him. Vader took 3 rounds of my entire armor shooting at him before he went down. At that point, the bikes came behind me. He had 2 or 3 sets of bikes and Vader.
Yeah.
And he just came back and just was like rolling real hot, and I just wasn't. So I felt very dicey that game. Because even if you aim with an ATSD, you get, 2?
Right.
And at one point, I rolled on my 2 reds, blank surge. I'm like, okay, I got the aim token, pick up, surge. I've never wanted to throw dice before, but that was just like, well, these worst dice, okay. So, no, super nice guys, all of them. But yeah, that first game was just like, he was real hot.
Yeah, I think, and I guess this is with the whole game, I suppose, but as someone who plays Vader a lot, he seems one way or the other. Like some days he'll come through and he'll just be killing it. You'll be rolling all paint and you're just like, yep, I'm never going to die. And then the next game, it's like within the second turn, he's just gone.
Oh, yeah. Like I maximum firepower the first turn and got him, and I got 2 damage, and I'm like, all right, this is it, boys. Let's do it. And then that was the only 2 he took. Actually, near the end, like turn 4, I finally got him. But at that point, it was more of a moral victory that I had to kill Vader.
Yeah.
Cause he pulled like my guys off cliffs with force pull, so just falling to their deaths. Like I was literally like the worst case scenarios. But
God. I love that so much.
yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, that force pull, force push is amazing.
Yeah, it hurt. I'm like, well, how do we do? I stopped. Like, how do we do falling damage? Right? Because I've never been pulled off a cliff before. It's like, well, it's like I think we said it was like clambering. So we rolled, and I lost another 2 guys. I'm like, so he fell in front of Vader, like with just the leader. I'm like, oh god, But no, it was
Yeah,
it
I
was a
think
thing.
clambering that seems like a good rule.
I didn't know what we were like. We good for the judge, and like we both kind of agreed that seemed because it wasn't that far. It wasn't like height 1. It was like a size of a trooper down. I know there's probably rules for falling, but we just rolled like, well, it's just like you did a move action down.
Yeah, that seems
Reasonable.
legit.
That's
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
I'm like, I was like, dude, you got this. Like after 3, like my ATSD shot, couldn't see him, and then like we did the mine mission, so I was like walking through mines too. I'm like, oh my gosh, like full fired into 4 just stormtroopers out in the open, did a suppression. It's just like the worst. I'm like, all right, it's cool.
Oh. So what do you think, this being a bigger Legion tournament, what were your overall takeaways from the tournament in general?
It's funny because I thought Rebels were just going to get destroyed.
Mhm.
And I had a game where he played fine. He played for the objective. Unfortunately, there just wasn't a whole lot of terrain between him and my ATSD. So I was just like wiping off squads at a time. Then my dice became hot, right? Like it wasn't like, when he played, I didn't think anything he did wrong. He just had to go for it because I had it on my one objective shooting at number 2, right? I was like, what's he gonna do? Because it's way the heck back there. But I saw more Rebels than I thought. A lot of people played Rebels. I thought it was gonna be like real heavy Imperial. Not so. Like most of them were playing Rebels.
I think this goes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast, where Rebels are more difficult to play, but as the game goes on and more people play with them, they get better.
Yeah. So last time Nick and I were talking about, I tried to play Rebels list, and I was telling him afterwards, I'm like, man, I more respect to you because these guys are crazy difficult to play.
Mhm.
And with like the Empire, I feel like I have to you have to think with the game overall, but with the Empire, I feel like I can just line up and be like, all right, boys, let's see what happens.
No, sure. Stormtroopers with the DLT especially. DLT is so forgiving.
Yeah.
Like range 1 to 4 to red. You just shoot even if you don't get the rest of the team to shoot. Like, okay. But without it, Stormtroopers feel like they're just useless. Like, right, they're just DLT carriers to get that thing to the fight. The next list I want to try I'm going to try rockets. Impact 3 is pretty good. And no one really brought a whole lot of impact stuff, so...
The HH-12s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to tap them to take, to ready them back up. But a lot of ATSDs, like every Empire army I saw for the most part, besides the ones that won, oddly enough, had an ATSD in it. And I'm like, man, like if only I had some... Like my list was fine against it, but if I was running a troop heavy army, like you got to have a little bit of impact, or else like the ATRT is going to walk all over you.
Yeah, and I was reading online a little bit, and a couple people had made comments about they saw way more ATSTs than they thought they were going to see.
Oh yeah, they were all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, similar to Vader, where for a while there, and we're going to talk meta later, but with Veers and the bikes, like that seems like such a great list, and it is a great list. But I think more and more people are seeing the value, even though they're 200 plus points for each of them. But I think people are seeing the value in the ATST and Vader more.
It's a variance monster. It's like the Z7. Like you throw, sometimes like I shot at a Leia once, it was like 10 damage. Other times and you're just like, I guess she dies, right? Like it's what you can do. Other times I threw and threw and threw. Like that first game, like he shot every round, didn't get a hit in. And you can't. He doesn't surge on attacks.
Right.
Reroll doesn't seem 2 dice doesn't seem like enough because Stormtroopers you're rolling like 5 dice. And you're like, okay, rerolling 3 because it got precise is pretty good.
Right.
I'm hoping maybe like down the line they get a like one of the pilot changes. Maybe he gets one that gets a precise instead of arsenal. That might be cool. So it makes the rerolls feel a little.
Yeah.
Because same token, sometimes like you get to reroll white dice. You're like, oh. I had a group of 6 snowtroopers shooting to Vader. That same game, 6 blanks on the white dice. Reroll 2 into 2 more blanks. I'm like, okay, all right. Doesn't even give him like if it was a trooper, it wouldn't even give him suppression, right? They're just like, hey,
yeah,
we're gonna shoot. But no, I think it's a variance monster, and then when variance runs hot, it's crazy. It's crazy good.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting too when Boba Fett comes out, that maybe it makes more sense to run Vader
Yeah.
as well, especially with all the lists out there.
Oh yeah, this launched this article too.
Yeah.
Well, they go at least show all the command cards.
Yeah, and I mean they looked good, and we're hoping to go over that in another podcast. But yeah, I think people are starting to wake up that the points for Vader and for the ATST are worth it.
Yeah, I didn't think they were at first, but after this round, especially with Weiss being with Veers, you get Imperial Discipline.
Yep.
Pip 3, you get to free untap a Weiss, and then I gave him a name token, and then I fired with everything again. So it was, it was insane. Like the amount of weaponry I was just pumping into infantry was crazy.
Yeah, and so you're playing all 4 weapons too, so you're getting the arsenal too.
I really, it's tough to take one off because the mortar is really great. That 4 to infinite is pretty okay, especially if you get long march. You can at least do something. I think the grenade launcher is actually like the unsung hero because everyone takes a light blaster because that's at 1 to 3, so you can just make those huge bullet dice.
Yeah.
But to say you don't get cover, especially to rebels or anybody else hiding behind, they don't get suppression. Suppression gives you cover. So if they're covered down behind like light cover, you're taking all of that. I play my ATSC real aggressively though. I move them up real close so that range 1 to 2 for the grenade launcher.
Yeah.
I'm always using it.
Well, yeah, but I think, and I was kind of downplaying and beating that grenade launcher up a little bit in our last podcast, just because I guess I was looking at it from more of like a single weapon. But I suppose if you're playing all 4 with the arsenal too,
because that's that pool, right? So it's that pool of dice. So when I'm putting my main cannon, my light blaster, and that into you, if you just unfortunately happen to be in range 1, even Han with his 3 rerolls, if I get 6-7 hits, you just get your rolls, right? No, duck and cover doesn't count, nothing. So you got to be real aggressive with them. But if they're real sneaky and they move behind you, that's when all you can do is pivot, right?
Right.
Please. So I wonder if maybe I really want the Snowspeeder's little hook gun to be good ever.
Yeah.
Right. So you fly, you shoot at it, you fly by, and you pivot and you spin the AT around so you see its butt, and then everyone just fires into it. But
it's not accurate enough for that right now.
Even if it did pulled an X-wing where it was you roll all these dice, and if you hit, you cancel them, and then you just get the spin, because it's 1 red, right? So it doesn't surge, so you just throw and you just right, you hope it hits.
Yeah, that would be neat.
That's my only idea to make it good, right? Because right now 1 dice is a whole lot of hopes and prayers to get to do that.
So did you? I guess that's a good question. Did you see anybody playing the Snowspeeder at all?
I don't think I did. I'm trying to think about it. Maybe one had it. But the guy who won our day definitely did not with Rebels.
Right. Yeah, Nick and I were arguing about this a little bit last cast, where I think I've seen it be successful.
Yeah,
You've seen it do work.
Yeah, I've seen it work, and in my head, it's almost equivalent to playing one unit of speeder bike, or one unit of speeder bikes. It does work. It does what you need it to do, but then Nick breaks it more down by effectiveness overall.
Well, that and your comparison is half the points.
That's fair too. Yeah. Yes.
My fear with the Snowspeeder is if you ever get weapons disabled, it's over.
Yes.
So main cannons, and you're immediately I don't even have to look at the card. I'm whatever those 2 things on the front of that thing are, they are not firing anymore. I lost a game with my ATST playing casually because I built it light with a light blaster and the main cannon. My first roll was weapons disabled, so I lost my main cannon. I'm throwing 3 dice at that point. It was just big dead weight at that point.
It just seems, for me, it seems odd that they, and I know they got a lot of pieces and units and stuff they're putting on. It just seems odd to have something at that cost level that doesn't do that much. So I'm wondering, are we missing something? Are they going to add something? What is it that we're missing here?
I think it's a balance thing. So the speeder bikes versus the ATRT. The ATRT I feel is stronger because it has the armor. It's harder to kill.
Yeah.
Where you have the air speeder versus the ATST. The ATST is stronger. It's harder to kill, and your speeder is your sort of light firing weapon.
Oh yeah, I'm terrified of ATRTs. I ask which one has a flamethrower. The first one, I'm do you have one?
Yeah.
Second is which one's got your heavy laser cannon, because I was gonna take out my ATST. So who do I target first with mine? So like, I'll do like ambush or whatever I can to activate my guy first to kill their ATRT, just so it's off the board. So I become a god, right? I'm just like walking through. I'm like, you don't surge in crits, so hope you roll well, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the few units that they have that are truly scary, I think, from a Empire standpoint.
And they're scary and they're versatile because you can build them so many different ways. Like with the speeder bikes, they're just the speeder bikes.
Yep.
Right. That's it. And the ATST will always have that main cannon, so it's always going to be like 6 dice at you, and it's always going to kind of like ouch with impact 3. Like it's just going to murder something. But with them, like you can, if the meta becomes very infantry, you just throw a flamethrower on it, sneak it around the outside because they got climb. Right, so vertical terrain doesn't matter to them.
I feel like you'd almost need to run similar to like what Nick runs. You need to run 2, one with a laser cannon and one with a flamethrower, because you need a distraction in order. Like it's similar with the snow troopers, and why I run them so close to Vader is because you need a distraction to get them to survive to get up close to do what they need to do.
I mean, you have to. You can't ignore it.
Right.
I think that's tough though. Like the list we were briefly touching on, just like 2 laser cannons and a rotary. I think if you're going to play laser cannons, you need 2 of them, just to have because rolling 3 dice, just 1 ATRT, it doesn't do enough just on its own. You have to run 2.
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of, so I guess we'll move on and start talking about the good segue, Nick, and we'll start talking about the winners by day. So for day 1, first place was the Twins Rebels list with a variation on a 3rd ATRT. And second place for the Empire was the Veers Speeders list. That looks pretty straight down the barrel meta. I'm trying to remember, but the Veers one looks pretty straight down meta.
Yeah, I ran something very much like that for a while. I like speeder bikes, but I liked them when they first came out because I like cavalry. So I wanted that horse. And cavalry in other miniatures games have always been really expensive, but this, they just give them to you. Yeah. So I'm like, time to do some bikes. So I like that a lot. So bikes can either go be the champion of your team, or they're just glass that just falls apart when they get hammered on.
Yeah. And so what I'll do real quick is I'll read out the whole list for everybody. So for the first place Rebels, they had Leia and Luke with no upgrades. They had the Fleet Troopers with a scatter gun. Fleet Troopers with just bare bones, Rebel Troopers bare bones, not at 4 but at 44, Rebel Troopers with a Z6, and Rebel Troopers with a Z6, and then 3 ATRTs, 2 with laser cannons, and 1 with a rotary blaster. So, Nick, I'll go to you on this one. You're the one here that plays Rebels. You play 2 ATRTs. I don't know. What are your thoughts on having a 3rd one in there?
Well, the first thing that stands out to me, and with the rest of these lists, all of the Rebel Troopers and the Fleet Troopers don't have the extra troop. That's something I've never done. I like to deck out my stuff, so I'm gonna have to try this.
Yeah.
And the rotary blaster, the reason why I don't play it is because it just feels like Rebel Troopers with a Z6, but a bit stronger, but more expensive. So it feels like it's just fitting in well with those troopers as well.
Yeah, that really worries me with the troopers without the extra one in there, especially rolling the white dice for defense. That seems like they're gonna go really quick. Yeah. So I'm sure this guy was really, really good, but I wonder how he prevented some of that.
Well, he probably plays the way I do, where I try to shoot first and minimize the damage coming back at me by eliminating some troops on the other side.
Nick is a shoot first, ask questions later type of guy.
Very much so.
Totally.
Fair.
And then we have, for the second place, they have Veers, no upgrades. Stormtroopers with an extra trooper in the DLT-19. There's actually 4 of those. Stormtroopers with DLT-19, no extra trooper. Snow trooper with a flame trooper, and 3 speeder bikes. So, I've played a Veers list before. I now play Vader. Veers is fine. You put him in there for the command cards and the low points, right? Yep. That's the whole reason to play him. Yeah. I get this list. It's successful. It clearly wasn't successful this day, but we don't know if these guys played each other or how the variant worked out on this one. But yeah, it's straight. it looks pretty straight meta. So I think there's not a lot of surprises here. I'd wonder how he did with the Flame Trooper. What was maybe use the bikes to distract from the Flame Trooper. Now, when you were playing, Evan, when you were playing Veers, were you playing Snow Troopers at that time, or?
Yep, I was with my current list. I do with Veers. I run 2 Snow Troopers with Extra Trooper, Flame Trooper, and Impact Grenades.
Yep.
And they just march. So you put the ATST on one side.
Yep.
And you put the Flame Troopers on the other, and you just march them in. So they either have to put everything into those Snow Troopers before they get close, because as long as that Flame Trooper's alive, it's still terrifying.
Yes.
Or the ATSD, gotta kill that too. With bikes, I usually flank with them. Like I have the whole army go one way, then they all go the other side.
Yep.
Yeah,
you did that. Yeah, you did that with me.
Yeah, that's usually how I play them, because sometimes it works real well. Other times they just blow up.
Well, and that's, and I get why the bikes, and, Nick was saying last podcast he doesn't like anything with a compulsory move because he likes to be in control of how things are working. But, like, I found with the bikes, they're good. But for my play style, like, I never seem to be able to play them right because I'm either too quick with them and I bring them in too early to start, like, taking out troops. Or by the time I bring them in, I just put them in terrible situations, and then they just end up dying.
Yeah. If you know your best shots with a pistol, that's probably trouble.
Yeah. Yes.
Things went wrong.
All right, so we'll move on to day 2. So day 2, we had Empire in first place. Second place was Rebels. And before I get to the list, I just wanted to mention that I grabbed these Nova Open lists from swlegionodds.com. It's never tell me the odds. This guy is amazing. He basically, what it does on the blog is he breaks down each of the units and the mathematics behind their dice rolls. And I go to his site every day seeing if he has new content. And I want to say that the second place list here, yeah, this is the one. This was his list, actually, that came in second place. This dude's really smart. He has some really cool tools on his website as well. He actually has a spreadsheet that he gives away for free that you can download and plug in your units and their dice and see how they'll actually fare mathematically.
Crazy, yeah.
So anyways, just quick plug for him over at swlegionodds.com for all of you listening. So first place was Empire. It was Veers with a command presence. They had the Stormtrooper with an extra trooper, DLT-19s, and concussion grenades. Another one of those. Same setup. Stormtroopers with a trooper, HH-12, and impact grenades. Stormtroopers with a trooper and HH-12. And then Snow Troopers with an extra trooper and a flame trooper. And then 3 bikes. Man, that list, I don't know, that list feels crazy strong.
That's a lot of dudes. That's a lot of... concussions is interesting because I feel like impact is pretty good too. Pretty much as long as you get them black dice at range 1.
Yeah.
The grenades are worth the points.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's for me, I think they're both equally situations that I've seen where concussion's really great, and then I've also seen impact really work. Especially, I throw impact on my snow troopers so that a lot of times what'll happen is somebody will send like an ATRT after me, and then I have impact.
Yeah.
Great.
No, I'm glad to see the HH-12s in there because I feel like they're very underused, but maybe secretly really good. I don't know.
Yeah, did you see him play at all, or
no? I didn't see anyone use them.
So, my issue has always been the cumbersome and the exhaust, and maybe it's just my play style, but I don't know that you'd have to really get yourself in an ideal placement for that to happen and to really work.
Yeah. I think so. I've always complained in Legion that height doesn't ever seem to matter because like ranges are kind of short and does give you a bonus. But with something like that where it shoots 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Height matters a lot because you get to see everything. So, that's like light. If you can't see their base, it's light cover. So you're shooting with a rocket launcher that you can just ready fire every time you're holding a point, and they can just lob missiles at you. I feel like that's even if you're not doing damage, just getting that suppression out there to really make someone's life miserable. Like, talk about it later. But snipers are real great because they can just be like double suppression. So they're kind of like that, except impact.
Yeah,
that's why I see them anyway.
Yeah, and I guess for me, my play style is a little bit more aggressive, so it's I think it's play style, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm just like let's tack. I don't want to rest. I don't want to
Yeah,
wait.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to tap. I don't want to untap this card. I just want to go. I want to fight. And that's really what the DLT 19s are for, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I still think probably overall they're the best trooper you can add. Like,
Yeah.
period to any army. Like 2 red dice, 1 to 4, impact 1, pretty okay.
yeah, hard to argue.
Yeah.
And then the red dice on defense.
Yeah, 2 red. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
So for second place was Rebels list. Leia with Esteemed Leader, Luke with Force Push and Force Reflexes, had a set of Fleet Troopers with an extra trooper, Scattergun, and he had grappling hooks. Rebel Troopers with Z6, and that is 4 times. So 4 of those units with Z6, ATRT with a laser cannon, ATRT with a laser cannon. So, Nick, I'll go to you, the Rebel player here. That's interesting. I mean, he's doing the same thing with all the Rebel Troopers, pulling the extra troop out in favor of a bunch of Z6.
And it is super, super close to my list.
Yeah.
It's just a little leaner on the troopers for an extra rebel troopers with a Z6.
Yeah, and I see what he's doing. So when I first saw this, I was like, why are there random grappling hook in here? But then I saw it was on the Fleet Troopers. I was like, oh, that
Get 'em
makes
into position.
that
Yeah.
makes way more sense. I'm gonna get these guys into position and just light everything up that comes at me.
Yeah, and if you put if you have that varied terrain again, you put your objective on top of one, you roll them up there, they'll shoot because it's right. It gets us a full action if you don't have them to not lose a guy. You gotta like enemy
Yes.
contact, then move up, or they don't. They can just move up like plow, right? Like so. I think that's kind of deceptively cool, but also situationally not terrible. But for like 3 points or whatever they're worth, like
Yeah.
Exactly. It's for
Right.
3 points.
yeah, like who cares? Like maybe you use them, maybe they're at the start of the game, maybe you don't use them.
Well, and I think similar to Flame Troopers or Snow Troopers, I wonder that'd be interesting to put grappling hook on the Snow Troopers too,
Yeah,
because then you can just put them into just random.
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be random,
and
but
now I'm up here.
yeah,
Right?
you just put them into a random position where they're now on top of everything, burning stuff.
yeah, that's not bad.
All right, so we'll go to day 3. So first place was Rebels. They had Leia with no upgrades, Luke with Mind Trick and Force Push, Fleet Troopers with Scattered Gun, 2 of those, Rebel Troopers with a Trooper in Z6, 2 of those, Rebel Trooper with a Z6, and 2 ATRTs with laser cannons. I think this is pretty straightforward, right, Nick?
Well, you'll notice all these lists look very much the same, which goes back to what we were talking about in the last podcast, which is that rebels do not have a lot of options. And yeah, two laser cannons, Z6 troopers, some fleet troopers to add some spice, and then Luke and Leia.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is the 2 Fleet Troopers with the scatter gun. That would be pretty terrifying, I think, if I saw that, especially if they're holding down an objective.
Yeah, the more I
Yeah.
play the fleet troopers, the more I like them.
I
They're
think they're great.
really difficult to
Yeah.
play, but they're really good when you play them well.
There was a time when you when we played when you took a standby, and I was using Veers, and I'm just like, I will not do anything with Veers.
Yes.
If you was it fire or move for standby, you get to fire.
It's if you make an action within 2.
Yeah, so I activated Veers, and I'm just like, and he's done.
Yep.
Because it's gonna be it was like 4 troopers, 2 white dice apiece, plus a shotgun. I'm like, you'll just watch. It's fine. He's
5 troopers.
Yeah, 5 troopers.
So it's 10 white dice and 2 red dice.
That's really funny. Yeah.
And then, let's see, for second place, we had, this is the interesting list. I think I want to spend a little bit of time on here. They had Vader with Saber Throw, Force Push, and Force Reflexes, Veers with Esteemed Leader, 3 sets of Stormtroopers with DLT 19s, 2 sets of Snow Troopers bare bones, and then 2 speeder bikes. I have no idea what you would do with those Snow Troopers without the Flame Trooper.
Yeah, I feel because when I'm moving up and I'm just firing their main gun, it's more like maybe I get one to get suppression, and then the damage comes when I get close. You got second, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
right.
like what am I gonna say? But yeah, I need like the extra gun with them, or else I just feel like I'm not.
Yeah.
They're not scary to me. If I see him move up without a flame trooper, I'm like, well, I'll get to him later. I
It's
guess maybe-
possible that they're in there because they're better than a regular stormtrooper, and he had the points.
That's true.
Well, yeah, because they can attack after they move.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I saw that and it struck me as really odd because I was like, all right, well, I guess. You know, they're going to be slow to move in. So maybe you move them into an objective to try to hold the objective, and then, you know, keep your bikes come around the other side on the flank, keeping the other troopers busy. Maybe it just seems. I'm trying to think of just how you would use them properly.
The one thing I've noticed about all the lists, it's either 9 or 10 activations for all of them. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, and this is something we talked. I mean, we might as well talk about it now. And Evan, this is something we brought up on the last podcast. I have started to put a lot of stock in activations because, you know, Nick and I were going back and forth on this. I've just seen so many times where like a 10 activation list, I don't know, like I just feel helpless for a really long time.
It feels bad when you move your 7 guys or 8 guys and they still have 3 more.
Mm-hmm.
Like to put this to another point, so in Conflict, they do the same thing in Conflict 47 or Bolt Action. You take a die for each troop you've got and you put it in a bag. And so instead of each of us randomly pulling out of our own bag for what we get, the group pulls out of one bag. So you and I would both pull our dice in one bag, and we pull one out and we activate a troop. So I had 8 activations on my list. I'm thinking Legion, right? I'm like, well, that's pretty reasonable. They had 18 and 16 because they had a lot of 2-man troops or a lot of like I was doing full squads.
Yeah.
And so if you ever think like 3 activations is bad, imagine having double that and then just like hoping your guys make it, you know, right? Like, and then so yeah, like more activations is always better because you get those more options. Especially, I was looking at a Vader list. I was just with 6 troops, decked out troops, but that's only 7 activations.
Right.
So you just hope that maybe you don't run to that 10 guys, so you get 3 turns of them just firing on you before you get to do anything.
Yeah, the most I've ever been able to get up to is about 8, but I felt like really weak and not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with Vader, you know, I don't mean with Veers. You could probably get 9 or 10, but with Vader, I always like 8, and I'm like, well, I don't know, guys. I don't think this is gonna play. But even the way, like, sometimes the turn order happens is that not only do they have 3 more activations than you just period, but depending on the turn order, they now have 4. So you've completed your turn, and now they're gonna go 4 times before you even get to look or move or do anything. Like, I think the last time we were playing Friday night, I just like was taking breaks at the end because I was like, all right, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna go grab a soda. Yeah.
Just tell me how many do
just
right?
just tell me who you're
right?
shooting at.
Yeah.
And so the activations, I don't know. I think that's a big deal.
I think you and I are putting too much stock into that extra trooper.
All
these lists, they're all stripped down of the extra trooper.
I think so too. I think I saw somewhere probably on that same website on the swlegionodds.com. I think they were saying that maybe that extra trooper isn't really mathematically needed when you have the Z6.
Mm-hmm.
So
That
I'm
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something behind that all these winners are doing it right.
Yeah.
But it's also with the stormtroopers. They're all stripped out of their extra trooper and just add the DLT.
Yeah.
19.
And listen, I mean, I know the stormtroopers have red defense dice, but for God's sakes, every time I play them, I'm like getting wiped out so quick, and I'm like, I need an extra troop in here. I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to survive.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So Evan, with yours, how have you been feeling with yours?
So what feels real bad is when you get hit by Leia's orbital bombardment and you lose.
I hate that card so much.
It's that and maximum firepower, 2 cards I don't like in the game because it gives you that turn 0 feels bad, man. So like with Veers, when I play some heat, I care about is just firing that maximum firepower, whatever I can. So like I do, I get down on the table and I'm like, well, Veers can see the foot, right? Like whatever I can do to like maximum firepower. And same with the orbital bombardment. Like when I started my 3rd game, I lost 2 snowtroopers, and 1 regular stormtrooper, and I hadn't even gone yet, right? And they each had suppression, and I'm like, geez, like this is blah, right? This feels real bad.
Yeah, and I think that
I mean, it was really good rolls and really bad rolls on my part, but still, like that swing.
Yep.
Already in my mind, I'm like, I'm super behind now.
Yeah, and I think that might be like I don't know. I don't know if this is the case, but my thought on that was that was their answer to the bikes for the Rebels. It's because if you're running 3 bikes and then your opponent's running Rebels with Leia, you know who's getting targeted that first turn.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen, and you're probably gonna lose 1 or 2 bikes for sure. Not the whole unit, but I mean like the mini.
Yeah. Get some damage on them at least.
Yeah. And so I think that's really interesting. I think that is a game changer too. When I see somebody playing Leia, I'm just like, oh, for God's sakes, because that can change your deployment.
Yeah.
I think.
You know, it's funny because I'll take, if I see him Leia, I'll take maximum firepower, whether or not I have a shot sometimes, just so I can move and try to shoot her. Or right, like, because I need, like, I just want to get that shot off before she does, before something gets wiped.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's really funny. Unfortunately, with Vader, like, Implacable is cool, but you're like, maybe I'll get an extra move. Like, it doesn't feel as, like, return fire-y.
No. And I think it's a, you know, we were talking about this last time too. I think it's a later game card half the time because he doesn't get to, in my experience anyways, it's usually turn 3 before he even gets to anyone.
Yeah.
And now, so you know, pretty much, like if I'm playing, you know, somebody and I'm in close contact, there's a solid chance the next turn I'm going to be playing that. So you know what's coming, and I think that kind of makes him a little predictable. The other one we were talking about is the 3-pip there that
Master of Evil.
Yeah, Master of Evil. Yeah, that with the suppression.
That's super good.
It is, but like Nick brought up, by the time you get to use it, he's going to be able to do something before you because he knows that 3
You're gonna
is
be able to play
coming.
around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but I don't know. I think it's, and we were talking about it. We kind of plays into his whole lore, right? Is that you see that command card come out, and I think you as an opposing player, you go, oh man, like I need to move some of these guys immediately.
Yeah.
So I can play around it with it, but I am forced to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
Now for the orbital bombardment and the maximum firepower, I've been starting to question that because it feels like if I'm playing that, I have to play it first, and I don't like that.
Leia's card for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around that unless you're playing the
Long March.
Yeah, the Long March.
Well, you can just not play it. You could not play the card.
I
See,
know.
I'm really curious. Like, I doubt they had them, but it would have been nice to see what command cards these guys played, if they actually played
Oh, and what? Yeah, no, I didn't see
all
that.
the expected ones.
Right.
I see value in not using a lot of the commander's cards. Sometimes, like Ambush
Mm-hmm.
is a really great card. Sometimes you, even though Implacable is great, sometimes you just don't want to activate Vader in a pinch situation.
Sometimes you need to activate that ATST first.
Yep.
Immediately be the first thing to do anything.
Yep. So I run just I only run one commander because in Empire that's generally just what you do.
Right.
But I run the 4, and I don't think I'd ever get rid of those unless something really good. Like even when I was looking at Boba Fett's cards, I'm like, they're all for him. Like I could lose 1 or 2 of those just to get like maybe a good punch in with them. But like having those generic like when you need it cards is just they're hard to get rid of.
Well, and that's that's interesting. I would wonder if this guy with the that got second place on day 3, if he ended up playing both their command cards, or if he's swapped out some of the, you know, the general ones, because I think, I don't know, that list is just interesting, and this brings me back to, you know, what we were talking about with Vader. I think he's coming back. I think he's going to come back big.
I hope so. Well, more force powers, right? Like eventually, I'm sure Palpatine will bring 1 or 2 new ones.
Yep.
And anything more, like just need more, right? Like just change them up because right now that saber throw, force push, reflexes, that's how you do it, right? Like it's Luke. You can kind of get away with running light because he's less points.
Mm-hmm.
And but Vader, I feel like if you don't build him out, you're wasting like Master of Evil. I could call him Master of Evil, Master of the Force.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have at least 1 on there, I feel like you're just throwing that like points away for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can't play him Bear. He has to have at least saber throw.
Yeah, because that makes Relentless just all the better.
Yeah. That's the only downfall. But I mean, I don't know. And you were talking about how you're gonna switch back to Vader now too.
Yeah.
I've been playing him for a little while, and I tried Veers, and it could just be me, but I was like, I don't understand this guy, and so Vader's just way more my style. He changes the board. As I was talking with Nick, like, you know, Nick and I were talking, and Nick said, "You put Vader down, I have to rethink what I'm doing on that end of the board."
Either you ignore him or you go all in on him, right? There's no like with Veers, like after I do maximum firepower, I'm like, well, I guess so. You know, like,
now
like,
what?
I'll keep him up there so he gets the commit. Like he's more or less just a barometer, so people don't flee at 2. You know, like I guess you could use some aim tokens. Like he's not like awful, but I feel like Leia, when I see her after she does that, she's still good. Like,
Yes.
She still got the
Yes.
command cards. Where Veers is kind of like, I blast. I guess you can inspire. Here, take an aim. Like, it just doesn't feel like...
Now I'm all done.
Yeah,
That
they
was
feel
it.
like this. Even
Mhm.
after that first shot, they're even. But after that, like, I feel like Leia just has that more...
When
Give
she
her
hands out
guns.
dodge tokens,
Yeah.
she shoots really well.
Yeah.
Veers does not shoot well at all.
Yeah.
He punches good. Yes.
Yeah.
Got those
Oh,
two
he does
black...
punch good.
Yeah.
He does got those two black dice.
Well, so the couple times I played, and the last time I played him, I was playing another Empire list, and he had the ATST, and he was playing all 4 weapons with Arsenal 2,
Yeah.
and he, for some reason, out of all my units, he decided he just wanted to suppress Veers, and that's all he did with that freaking mortar. Just
Yeah.
suppress. I don't know. Veers had so many suppression tokens. He started to panic. Like, I was
Oh,
just
no.
like, all right, I've had enough of this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm like, Vader. That's it. I don't care how much he costs. That's who
Yeah.
I'm playing from
Yeah.
now on.
Like, I got so used to playing Vader when I got Veers, I forgot like half the suppression rules because he just doesn't take it, right?
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Like, he's not running. Whatever.
Right. It's interesting. And I think, oh man, I think he's undervalued, Vader. And maybe that's changing. You know, you said you saw Vader there, and you're thinking of switching to Vader. We clearly see him in a second place list
Yeah.
at a big tournament. So it just makes me wonder if maybe the value proposition is coming back up on him now. And, you know, we talked about this before, but that Pierce 3, especially
good.
if you're throwing the saber, it's just like, there's a 50-50 chance 3 of you are dead.
Yeah,
Like, that's just
yeah.
it. This is happening. So,
It's so
they're,
good.
They're different lists. Like Veers and Bikers is very aggro. Anything you put Vader in is very controlly. Like Vader is a control unit.
yeah, yes, I agree with that, but it feels like almost a control. It's a mix. It's like a control aggro list too, because I feel like with you have to be aggressive with him in order to have the control.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And so I think it's a good combination between the two, and I think that's why I like him so much, is especially with linking him up with the snow troopers, and almost in my head using him as like a unit leader for the snow troopers, and they just stick together. I mean, you guys have both seen that and how devastating it can be when it finally gets
Yep.
to you.
When we played, he marched his Vader and snowtroopers all the way across the board. I wasn't paying attention to him because I was playing the objective. And then he gets over to my guys. I had 2 full squads of snowtroopers and Veers behind him. Right, I'm just handing main tokens, and he moved them for the train. And then Vader rolls up, pulls him out of cover, kills the whole squad, walks forward. The flame troopers walk up, kill the rest of the squad. I try to run with Veers, pushes him off the board, dead. I'm like, holy cow! There goes like 300 points just out the window.
Yeah, and we were talking, and Evan was like, "Oh man, I thought I just had that game. I had that game, and then all of a sudden, I think I was within 1 point.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
at the end of the
It
game.
was insane.
Yeah, and what? I think it was one turn. Like by
Yeah.
the time I got him up there.
Yeah, it was just one turn. The whole game swung, and thank God I just happened to be lucky with like my bikes coming around behind you. But that was
Yeah.
insane. It
Well,
was
and
insane.
You know, and that was the just strategy for that one. Were we playing the ones where you had to get your units across the enemy lines? I think that's what
breakthrough,
we were. Breakthrough.
yeah.
And it's unit leader on that one. And so I saw his bikes coming down, and what I did was I just put a bare bones stormtrooper unit in front of him just to kind of slow him down, and then I just moved everything else away from his bikes and just went on the other side of the board.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know. That's the interesting. I think we all can agree to that. That's the interesting thing about this game. That I know that these meta lists keep winning, well, variations of the meta list, but I really don't feel like any list is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can come to the table with any list and you have just as big of a shot to win as one of these meta lists.
Oh, sure. As long as your points are filled out, like there's got to be something like to do it. So I agree that like it feels like I've just lost to crazy stuff before. I'm like, okay, I guess. I saw snowtroopers with that ion gun.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't ask him how he did with it, but it's out there. People are trying it, so.
Yeah, we were talking about ion guns last time too, and
How much I don't like them.
Yeah. They're interesting, but I don't know, they're weird.
It's so on like.
That's my professional opinion, everyone.
it's
They're
weird.
weird.
No, it's fair. So like ion like on ATSD reduces the aim, won't get an aim because it's probably gonna aim and fire.
Mhm.
On speeder bikes, it doesn't get to aim and fire.
Right.
Or you get your free move and you're probably just firing. So I wonder how much, with extra reroll, how much damage it's losing because it only gets one action. But bikes, you get to move and shoot anyway, so it feels like you're like, whatever.
Exactly.
Okay, who cares?
Yeah, well, and I think that's, probably one of the things I wasn't taking advantage of with the bikes as much when I was playing them. So I play Vader in an ATST now, but is that I just too aggressive. Like I would be like compulsory move, then attack, and it's like, no, man, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, you just slow roll with bikes. You keep getting a compulsory move. You're like aim, shoot,
I know,
aim, shoot.
They just in my head. I don't know why, but just my head is broken in a way where I'm like, I want them to go fast. And I'm just throwing them.
Go fast.
Yeah, I'm just throwing them across the whole battlefield for no particular reason.
In your head, they're a hero.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
And that's how the battle plays out.
Yeah,
They
it's-
survive everything, and everyone else is dead.
That's right. Yeah, it's just Return of the Jedi in my head. We're on speeder bikes going through the forest. This is awesome. All right, so I think what we'll do now is we'll move on to metagame. I'm sorry, metagame. So I think we were touching on this already, but I think we'll just wrap it up a little bit here. Is the metagame has been for a while the twins on the Rebel side with two ATRTs, and troops with Z6. And then on the Empire side, it's been Veers with the 3 bikes, Snow Troopers with the DLTs. Evan, we'll start with you. You were just at a fairly large tournament. Do these still hold up? And if they do you see it changing at all?
Yes and no.
Perfect.
So that's just easy. With Han, I've gotten to play one game against Han, and he's real good.
Yeah.
I think we just need more. Right now, we're just so starved for content, right? Like it's like Leia and Luke are just good. They'll be good until like we get another option. Where Veers, like the Empire, just that one list that held to him and Vader was great, but I feel like you either just play Veers or you just play Vader.
Yes.
Like you just for point costs and what's going on. And with Palpatine coming out being like 200 something points, like 210 or something, that's probably just going to be a one dude list. But I like the Rebels because you get a couple commanders. You could almost run like, Han and Leia or Han and Chewie. All the Han and Chewie cards are synergistic with Chewie, right? Like Notorious Scoundrels, you get to activate Han, and that's so cool. So I think right now it's just going to be stale until we start getting that that influx.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting when Chewie comes out because he's an operative.
Yeah.
So will you run just Han, or will you run Han, Leia, and Chewie, and like how that's gonna break out?
Just like the movies,
That's right.
right?
Everything's like the movies. But yeah, you're right on the Empire side. Yeah, you can only really play one, I think, as well. But I've always found, especially when coming up against the twins, and maybe it's in my head, but I always feel like I'm at an extreme disadvantage, especially with command cards. And I'm just like, for God's sakes, they got a command card with flavor text. Every command card. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna play push, I guess, or and I'm just like, oh, for God's sakes. So it's interesting, and we have been talking about how I really think Vader's going to come back into play. So I think the next couple tournaments will really start seeing where people are at.
Oh, sure.
And then I think, Nick, you're right. I think probably for us, some of the things after seeing all these lists, some of the things I'm going to take a look at is trying to slim down my troopers even more, and just I think most of them are. I think I just got a DLT on them, but I just have to take a harder look at how I can maximize my points and see if those. I mean, on the stormtroopers, I don't think the extra guy really does matter because he's one white die. I mean, I think it's like a 0.03% increase in hit probability. So it'd be interesting to see kind of those bare bones troopers and see how they hold up. So, all right. So the next, and this one I'd like to spend a little bit of time on, is terrain. So on the, if you're watching it on the YouTube channel, we're showing some pictures and we'll make them available on the website and stuff. This is the terrain that Evan actually shot these images. All images are copyright of Evan. I put that in the bottom just for you, so nobody
Give me
can
my penny clicks.
steal that. Yeah. He will get a fifth of 1 penny for every view.
Perfect.
And so part of the conversation has been for a while, not just looking at Nova, But overall, and I know this is a conversation online as well too. So if you see this in multiple places, listen, everybody's talking about this. Terrain feels sparse, and right now, we're looking at. Now, Evan, you said this was quarter of the table based on these images that we're seeing.
Yep. So I got there early Wednesday. When we got there at night, and they started setting up all the stuff, and I was bored, and I'm like, yeah, man, I'll give you a hand. I got nothing else going on. So how it works is they had a pallet of mats. You put the plastic boards out, put the mats on, and then they have a tub, like a big tub for each table.
Okay.
And the nice part is each table's got a piece of paper that tells you what each terrain is. Like, this is light cover, this is covering cover, this is heavy cover. So you can just pull it out under the tub and be like, okay, here's our cover. You don't have to well, I think that thing looks a little, right? Like, there's no arguing. And to the other bit of cool credit, each one had a broken ATST.
That is neat, yeah.
And, I mean, that's pretty cool. Now, for the bad part, they do cover the 25% of the table because I stacked it up because a lot of people, when they're helping, we just got random volunteers from all the things, how do we do this? I'm like, well, they got to be this range and that range. I'm like, but no one had any range rulers at the time. So we're just kind of making it, we tried to make it diagonally correct. So the one in the middle, it would be the red mat if you're looking at these right now. You make it so each side's got about the right if you cut it down the middle.
Yeah.
And it's just, this is the Fantasy Flight official stuff. And we did what we could, right? This is just what we had.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We were talking about when we were first playing, and man, this could have just been some random place that we read this, and it may not be real at all. But I swore I saw somewhere that it was a third of the table.
I remember that too.
Yeah, and so this quarter table thing seems real weird. And I was looking at it, and just for people who are listening who can't see, we will have the images, but it's not a lot of it is height. A lot of it, a lot of building rocks. There's a few that are tall, kind of mountainous, impassable terrain, I guess you would call it, especially for bikes. But a lot of it's lower ground level stuff. It just seems, looking at the tables as a whole, I don't know, it seems sparse.
There's a lot of empty space.
Yeah. And I guess, for, we were saying, for Empire, that's really good. For Rebels, not so great.
Yeah.
Now, did you set this terrain up for day 2?
I set it up at the beginning, so
Yep.
it's for all the days, went
Yep.
through it, and then I had some time left over, so I helped pack it back up.
Now, were they, I had read somewhere, I believe it was on that same website, that they the first day they didn't have barricades, but then the second day they allowed barricades.
They had barricades.
Did they?
Yep,
Okay.
they came in the bag, so that some maps have it and some don't. It's
Oh,
what's
I
in
gotcha,
the actual
I gotcha.
So, if you want to point here,
For those
so
listening,
you can
Evan
see
is
this.
pointing at something.
So some that's actually one piece of terrain that the barricades are built into.
Okay, so it's about 6 inches by, I don't know, 3 inches,
Yeah,
and it's got a
all,
couple.
heavy cover.
Yeah, and it's got some barricades built in.
And I didn't get a picture of everything, but some had them pushed around. Some just had the naked barricades. I mean, everything was painted. All the terrain looked good.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I was a Rebel player, I might have been upset, but Rebel still won.
Yeah,
so,
they did. 50,
I mean,
it looked like 50-50.
So there's that. So maybe as much as I want that cinematic, I want to go to an Infinity game, right, with my stormtroopers and have a whole cityscape and we're fighting in back alleys
that
and
would be
streets,
great.
right?
Yeah.
I want that. But to the same token of this, the defense of the open board,
Yeah.
it makes the game end.
Yeah.
Right? You hear the objectives, I put mine out in the open, and one of us is dying getting to it. Right? The game will just grind out till we get it. So no one's you have to make those risky moves if you want to play the objective. So I understand, man, it sucks. Looking at these, I remember opening it up and I thought I'm like, well, where's the other bin? I'm looking around, I'm there's one per table. I'm like, no, that can't be right. I was on a snow map. I'm like, look, there's just, but it stinks, but it also it has to be portable,
Yeah.
right? Because Fantasy Flight ships these in. This is their ones they'll ship to all the tournaments. So you're gonna see this terrain a lot if you go to a tournament.
Yeah, I guess I saw that some people were saying this was pretty much the same stuff they did at Gen Con.
Yep.
As well. So the question I had was for barricades, based on what you were saying, that they were already set up for
set
each
for
table. So the interesting thing that's been happening, and listen, we're in upstate New York. I don't know if this is only a local thing,
Yeah.
but a lot of stores have been asking players to place barricades, and I think part of the mistake has been that in the rule set, the terrain needs to be placed before you do anything.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to stay the same way through the whole tournament, no
Yeah,
matter who's
it
playing
does.
at that table. And so what I've seen a lot in the tournaments we've played,
Yeah.
the few that have been around here, is that people have been switching the barricades because I mean it's their barricades, you
Yeah,
know. So
yeah.
like I'm gonna scoop these up and take them to my next table, and
Yeah.
I really think that's wrong.
No, I correct. I think like we should just build like I helped build those tables, and they were like that the whole 3 days, and then I helped clean them up. They're like the same way.
Yeah.
So barricades are part of the percent. Now the game gives you barricades because it wants you to have something.
Right.
Right. Like it, absolutely nothing. Like if you look at the how to play the first game you play, like the real game where it's 800 points, it's like just 8 barricades and that's it. Right. Like it's
right.
pretty bad. Right. So if you want to talk about bad terrain like that, your first experience of the game is going to be terrible. If you're a Rebel player, you're like,
Yes.
I guess I run to those and hope I don't get shot. So yeah, we've also made a lot of like rules mistakes. Like we're all still learning. Like that's the thing at the tournament. These people traveled these things and people are still getting rules wrong.
Yeah.
And what was really cool is like no one was ever like argumentative about it. They're like, hey, well if I don't know, please tell me. Right? It was like a very like, even the judge come over because sometimes weird things would happen. Like overall, like even though a lot of people are still trying to get like the grasp of what's going on, like everyone's super cool about it. So no one's ever gonna like, I don't say this entirely, but most people I've played with never have like, if a rule things came up, like we double checked, we made sure we're right, like, and we both get stuff wrong, like we both playing it wrong because it extrapolating the data, it means different things to me than you.
Yeah.
So like heck, I've been playing with each suppression up to 2 gives you cover.
Right.
So if you had 2 suppression counters, you're on heavy cover. No, it's just one period.
Well, and I think that came out that made it really clear with the sniper units and stuff
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah.
And Han.
Yeah,
'Cause
the duck and cover.
Duck
yeah.
and cover, yeah. You know, yeah, I think that's interesting. I think I would agree with that. That even the stores, like everybody, we're still trying to figure out the rules. We're still trying to understand them. But I think that's the good and bad thing with having a rule set like this versus, you know, I think we were also excited, like especially if you play any Games Workshop stuff like Warhammer, especially like Fantasy 8th edition, right?
Yeah.
You'd have that giant rule book. Sure, most of it was like painting and stuff, but
Yeah.
a lot of it was rules. And
Yeah.
then you'd have your army's rule book.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'm grateful that that's not the case. But I think this is kind of the aftermath of that is the fact that, you know, we are going to have some rules that, you know, we're going to figure out on the way.
No, I 100% agree. Like, the more games I play, like Bolt Action, like, every unit is in one book. And it's also the rule book.
Yeah.
So every page in that, besides, like, the first little bit, that's the history behind it. But I'm glad, as much as I think that's compact and awesome, I'm glad we don't even have that. Where I can just, I'm be like, hand me your card.
Right.
I can read the rules, how does precise work, right? Like, it's still so smooth and streamlined, and it's very much, it took the best part of X-Wing where, like, I don't have to memorize what orcs with Grizuk the war leader does is when they charge, how many swings do they get? Oh, they have a wog going. What's that mean? I could be a Tau player or anything else. I'd never even touched your book. I'm just having to assume you're correct, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't. With this, I'm like, well, hey, could you hand me Vader? No, you don't get suppression tokens. Got the part, right? Like there's no like, I don't have to go through like 18 pages of a book and hope I find it. It's just the card.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with that.
All right. So before we wrap up today, is there anything maybe that you saw at Nova playstyle wise, or any unique tactics that maybe we should all know about now and be aware?
Oh yeah, sure. So, it's funny you say that. So the guy who I don't know his name, unfortunately, who won, what he would do is he would take his leader, hide him behind blocking terrain, like where he can't.
So a
see or
unit
get shot.
leader.
A unit leader
Yep.
where he can't see or get shot, and use the unit coercion, the range 1 template, and put them all out in the open if you want to take a shot. And so they would fire, and if they got fired back on, so he's rebel, so if he has a dodge token, it's whatever, they're kind of meant to be in the open.
Yep.
No matter how much damage he took, right? If he took 8,000 damage, right? Only the ones that are seen actually die. That's the official rule. So his leader would still be alive because he didn't shoot, nor was he in the combat. But that's really big deal because sometimes, like with stormtroopers, it's a white die. Who cares? Like,
Yeah.
you're just there to get that DLT to shoot or that rocket launcher to shoot. So he would do that, have his guys run fire. Then if they had to go back and take a position, he still had the 1 leader to go take a position. So it was really sneaky, but it was right. Like, it wasn't like
well within the rules.
Yeah. It was how it works, and so that was really interesting. Let's see, what else did I see that was kind of. Someone's gonna have to fact check this one, because this is what happened to me. Yeah. He said it was 100%. So he had battle meditation. So that says when you issue an order, a unit order, he can shoot it off to somebody else anywhere on the field, right? So what would happen is he would use the 1 pip Luke card. He would say, I'm issuing Luke the order, battle meditation, giving it to that guy way off the middle of nowhere. And the way he was reasoning it to me was because it's an order token, even though it's not specific, like it's specific, but because the card, the battle meditation just says when you were issued an order, you can shoot it out. So it was near the end of the game and time was running like short. So I was like, we had like 10 minutes left. I needed this last turn to win. So I'm like, okay. And he was very adamant that it worked. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but I'm saying that just seemed a little weird to me. And if someone could email us to let us know if that's.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
It didn't to me, but the way
the card specifically says Luke.
It did, but it was because it was a difference in the word with the battle meditation. It says like just it didn't specify a specific. I said an order. That's why he was pitching. It ended up not mattering because he sent it off to a guy, and then I put the same pip up and I killed the guy anyway before I got to move. So like, it didn't change the game, but it could have. So I'm not like super sure if that's right or if anyone's seen that's legal. Let us know.
We'll have to check and see which takes precedent, the command card or the upgrade card.
Yeah, because the rule book says always go by the cards, not the rule book if there's a discrepancy. But what if they're both cards?
Yeah,
right. Like who do you? That's the only weird one I saw.
Well, that's cool. All right. Well, cool. We're going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining us this week. You can find us online at thefifthtrooper.com. You can email us at thefifthtrooperpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook and Twitter at Fifth Trooper. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great night.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper Podcast.